Welcome back. We're still reading from No Clear Path. The story that we're going to encounter today is one that I wrote in college. It was my first attempt to write fiction. And my professor became discouraged because I kept rewriting, and he thought maybe I should try something else. But I didn't give up. And finally he was so satisfied that he sent it for publication in a college journal. So here is Consuelo reading Living Monument.
Living Monument. The screen door slipped from Carrie's hand and slammed against the sleeping silence of the house, throbbing against the wooden shell of the clay ancestry. Throbbing against her temples, a nerve vibrated, and then stopped abruptly. She listened. No one called her from within. Mother and father up from Boston, son home from college. She stood outside there breathing. She could have gone in and with a word or a touch peeled away their cocoon of sleep and brought them with her. Instead, she turned and started across the field alone. She looked gratefully at the full moon and then apprehensively across the field to the trees. In the morning, she would tell them what she'd done. It would be a simple recounting of events. No hysteria, no theatrics. She would be matter-of-fact and simply say that this was what Jay had wanted, and she had carried out his wish. Carrie stopped and looked at the case in her hand. The moonlight caught on the silver lettering. Gerald Emmett Clay, January 3rd, 1928 to April 22nd, 1972. And on the back of the case, I'm filling up with ashes, love. Ashes. Hoarfrost of years of Irish black hair and blue eyes all melted down, condensed into what mysterious elements? Carrie held the case to her ear and shook it, but the ashes whispered so softly against the black leather sides that she could scarcely hear. Just voices on velvet and slippered feet. The sound would not catch on anything as solid as words. It was a secret sound that she sometimes felt was not really wind at all. Carrie looked across the diminished field to the trees and slowed her pace. It was after Lisa had been stillborn that she first felt the mystery of the trees. Sunlight slid through the crack in the center of the drapes and sat upon the mahogany bureau. She felt it as a presence, a sentient being bringing the secrets of stellar space into her room. She too had been journeying through space, through the mysterious subterranean of sleep. She wanted to call to it and say, surely after coming so far we should know, should understand something. But it sat, a golden orb of silence, on her bureau. It occurred to her that she alone in the world might be alive. Jay and Jerry had crossed the field to the woods early this morning while the house was still in shadow. Perhaps they too were only shadows. She felt the house descend upon her, press her thin, shutting all around. She was a leaf preserved in rock. Some geologist millenniums from now would find her and tell the world how it was back then. She thought of Lisa, who was with her, DNA all coded and ready, but forbidden. Forbidden to speak or write her name. Carrie edged her leg over the side of the bed. At least she could still move. She threw back the covers like shale. Sandstone and quartz she heaped at the foot. She picked her way through the rubble rock to the window and pulled the drape. When she opened the window, she felt the cold air press her back into the warmth behind her. She could see across the field to the wall of evergreen, birch, and jack pine. There her eyes were denied entrance. Even in the sunlight, the woods kept its secrets. The trees are carnivorous, she said to the silence as she headed out. The sound they make, that sighing, isn't the wind. It's the spirits of lost men moaning as they slip through thick arms trying to find their way out. Carrie stopped suddenly, breathless from the walk and the remembered terror. The edge of the woods was less than 20 yards ahead. She contemplated throwing the case into its dark center and running back across the field to the house that breathed and was warm. "Oh, darling, I'm sorry. I really wouldn't do that. It's just that I'm scared. You knew I would be, but you must have believed I could do it. I know you loved these woods, that you tracked deer and never shot, that you knew you were the visitor here." As she approached the edge of the woods, the trees seemed to be huddled together like primitive spirits protecting themselves. Beneath her feet, she could feel the cushion of decay. The damp, dark odor of pine invaded her pores, and there was a smell of another world, of a time before words. The shadows pressed close about her. She thought she must not let them go over her head. She had to rise above them. "For Jay, for Jay, this is for Jay," she repeated as she leaned against the knotty whiteness of a birch. The words, "I'm filling up with ashes, love," flashed in front of her eyes like the temperature and time on the bank building. They puzzled her. They were familiar, but they had no sharp corners to cling to. They were smooth like pebbles ground down by the years of sea washing. She forced herself to close her eyes against the darkness to remember. She saw a road all rutted and muddy from the spring thaw, and woods much like the one she was in. Then a cabin, a one-room tar paper shack. Of course, the old man on Hunter Road. He was one of Jay's first calls as a young country doctor. She pictured Jay stooping his 6-foot frame to enter. The stagnant air clings to the unpainted plank floor and walls. The bed dominates the end of the room. Its dirty quilt half hides the slop jar beneath. The old man is sitting on the rocker he proudly tells Jay he made with some barrel staves. His feet are planted on the box he kept beside the stove for wood. He eyes Jay suspiciously. Says he was never to a doctor in his life and didn't need one now. But his daughter thinks he looks poorly. Jay chuckles at that and says he probably doesn't need him, but if he didn't mind, he would just have a look at him anyway. The man is old and tubercular, and there is nothing really that he could do except spend some time listening to a lonely man try his voice on a human ear. Just before Jay leaves, the old man grips his arm and says, "Doc, I'm getting old. You see that there burner?" He spits on the stove and watches his tobacco juice sizzle on the hot surface. "It's near full of ashes. I'm like that. I'm just filling up with ashes." When Jay came home, he told her about it. "Isn't that some metaphor, honey?" He repeated it with a slight alteration. "I'm filling up with ashes, love." She removed the lid and looked in disbelief at the ashes. Just ashes, no blue eyes, no deep-throated chuckle, no slender fingers, just flat, faceless ashes. They have nothing to do with Jay, she thought. She sprinkled them at the base of the tree like a priest sprinkling holy water. They swirled up in a cloud in a brief pantomime of form, and then settled at the base of the birch. She turned and glared fiercely into the silence. Then her taut muscles relaxed. She thrust a thin smile into the dark center of the woods and left. She started back across the field, and she felt Jay's face close to hers. He was tender. He touched her cheek 1,000 times and said that she was his braille tablet, that he was a blind man memorizing her. She had held him in her little house before he slipped away from her. Fell down the centuries, past the sun and all galaxies, left only traces of himself embedded within. webbing of fern that would fossilize in her mind. It was like carrying a child, she thought. She had held them both, briefly been a part of him. She would always remember, always be his living monument.
Please join us next time when we'll read 2 stories, Team Spirit and the story that gave this book its title, No Clear Path. If you'd like to contact me, you can email me. You can also visit my website, lorrainesiegel.com.